Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. If you're just joining us, last segment we had a conversation with Alderman Khalif Rainey, who represents Milwaukee's 7th District. He discussed new jobs that will become available with the building of the new Bucks Arena, a new BMO Harris Bank that's going up in the Sherman Park neighborhood, and his plan to fix the potholes on our roads. We will continue that conversation now. Welcome back, Khalif.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again for being here. And like I said, there's quite a bit going on when we look at different issues and concerns in the city. And one touchy subject, I know a lot of politicians are like, do we have to talk about it? But there was the debate dealing with the high-end strip club on Old World 3rd Street. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding that. And there was actually a 10-5 vote in the Common Council, and you voted for the measure. And it's interesting to hear that every alderperson had their reasoning behind that vote. So kind of explain to us yours.
Absolutely. Well, strip clubs in the city of Milwaukee isn't a new issue. You know, there's several throughout the city of Milwaukee. I have 2 within the 7th Aldermanic District. On this particular issue, it was that some believe that a strip club shouldn't exist downtown. Now, a strip club is within your constitutional rights. So we stood to face lawsuits as a result of not granting those who had the constitutional right to have this operation to allow them to actually move in downtown. So me representing a constituency that greatly values city service, and with us standing to potentially face cuts from the federal government and the Trump administration, you know, it was important to me that we made sound physical decisions that didn't put the services that we offer to those here in the city of Milwaukee in jeopardy. So that's the reason why I voted in support of the strip club. And you know, it was a difficult vote, but it's one as an alderman that, you know, we face those decisions on a regular basis.
Yeah, and speaking of facing decisions and dealing with settlements and lawsuits, this past week you guys had to really make a decision with the full Common Council on the $2.3 million settlement for the Dontre Hamilton case. His family filed a civil lawsuit, and a judge actually judged in their favor. And so if you could kind of paint a picture for us of how that conversation went and really what it means when the city has to pay out settlements that's worth millions of dollars.
Well, let me say that, you know, 2.3 million, 10 million, 20 million is not worth, you know, a human life.
You can say that again, yep.
So, you know, whatever the Hamilton family has gained as a result of this, it pales in comparison to what they have lost, which is a loved one. So on behalf of the city of Milwaukee, you know, I just want to offer my condolences to the Hamilton family as they move forward with trying to rebuild their life. You know, when the city has to pay out on these lawsuits, what that means is we have to balance that against our budget. So things that we prioritize, such as public safety, you know, snow removal, garbage removal, those things begin to be in jeopardy. So, you know, this is a very touchy situation. You know, it's not a Milwaukee situation, it's an American situation. You know, we saw this occurring around the entire country last summer. You know, if it wasn't Milwaukee, it was North Carolina, it was Baltimore. So this is not only an issue that we here in the city of Milwaukee have to face, it's an issue that we all here in America have to face. And that's an ongoing battle.
Yeah, and members of the Hamilton family have been on the show on many occasions to kind of just keep us up to date. And what I've always said to them is I admire the fact that they will not give up their fight for justice. And so it's been 3 years, and I think that, like you said, no amount of money can bring back their loved one, but it is at least a sign of justice for the situation that took place. And you were talking about how this kind of stuff happens all over America every single day. There was just the whole situation with the police officer in Cleveland that shot 12-year-old Tamir Rice 3 years ago when they rolled up on him and thought his toy gun was a real gun. And that officer stayed on with his job, and then he just got let go because he lied on his cadet application. And I thought, what kind of message does that send to everyday people that you can lose your job for lying on an application, but you don't lose your job for taking an innocent life? So that's totally me digressing, but it's just like,
that's very valid.
yeah, those type of things, you know, it really does make people have to stop and think about the value of life. And I'm sure for law enforcement, you know, it's not an easy thing of them having to make, you know, split-second decisions on, you know, what it is they need to do. But it really does make a difference when that split-second decision is the wrong decision.
It does.
Yeah.
And it has a ripple effect. You know, not only has a life been lost, but the impact it's had on that family and the community at large. You know, that's something that we deal with on a daily basis as a result of those type of incidents. So it's something that we need to improve on.
Absolutely, and we definitely have to talk about this. And I know there are some people who will say, I'm tired of hearing about it, but the truth is, it is an issue, and this show is about issues. So over the Memorial Day weekend, there were 15 separate shooting incidents in Milwaukee that left 4 people dead. And what's extremely disturbing is that 2 young people under the age of 10 were injured by gunfire. So we're rolling up on the summer months, and we sometimes have a tendency to see, you know, the gun violence escalate when it's warmer out. So there's so many different ways that people are talking about stopping the violence. Everybody wants the same thing, but people have different approaches to doing so. Any thoughts from your standpoint on how we deal with gun violence and the effect that it's having on our community?
You know, I think gun violence, you know, similarly to, you know, the city of Milwaukee, and again, it's an American issue. You know, the amount of guns that are available, you know, the assault rifles that are available and fall into the hands of just, you know, individuals who don't have money for bus fare, but they got their hands on the Israeli-made Uzi. You know, so it's a problem when we have guns in circulation like that. But I think the greatest solution to addressing the violence issue, not just here in Milwaukee, but around the country, is putting people back to work. You know, when you are a responsible individual who has to be at bed at a certain time and be up in the morning and ready to go work, you know, I think that's a deterrent to people hanging out late at night and being involved in activities they shouldn't be in. I think a lot of people want to be, you know, employed and upstanding working citizens. So we have to make sure those opportunities are articulated and matriculated down to them, and they have opportunity to be, you know, a member of a city Milwaukee workforce.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And at the time of this taping, we're at 40 shootings compared to 42 at this same time last year, and already around 1,000 guns have been seized off the streets by Milwaukee police. Is, in your opinion, this a gun problem, a people problem, or both?
I think it's a combination of both. You know, although, you know, it takes an individual to pull the trigger, you know, having, you know, guns widely circulated doesn't help the issue. You know, but individuals understanding that we have to figure out how to resolve our concerns without violence, you know, that's critical. And, you know, I'm pretty sure myself and other colleagues, you know, the summer, you know, I don't look forward to it like I used to. Knowing that, you know, we stand to face, you know, a wave of crime and violence because of the increase in temperature, you know, it's something that we have to figure out how we respond to. You know, it's having an impact on everyone, children, loved ones, family. You know, we have to be able to feel safe in our neighborhoods and our homes, and we have to restore that peace to the city of Milwaukee.
Yeah, and in my opinion, a lot of it is changing the mentality of the people who are walking around with guns and feel like, you know, pulling out their gun is the way to solve whatever issue they may have. Because we saw one young lady killed because they were arguing over a man. You know,
Right.
at the end of the day, these things can be worked out without involving guns and taking the lives of people. So when you're in meetings with the Common Council and you guys have to discuss the different things that are happening in the city and how to address them, what are some of the things that maybe you agree on or debate about when it comes to just everyday safety of the citizens living in the city and surrounding areas?
Well, I agree with many of my colleagues that we have to have a multifaceted approach to addressing the issue. You know, the outlook simply can't be lock them up, you know, but to my neighbors in the neighborhood, they want to see, you know, some of these nuisance activities and problem individuals removed from their neighborhood. So it has to be a balanced approach that includes a little bit of both approaches. But I know it's one that our community is desperately waiting for the City of Milwaukee Common Council and the Mayor's office to deliver on. So we're working diligently on it, and I tell you, a solution can't come quick enough.
Yeah, so it's something that people, like you said, they're paying attention and they're waiting to see what's going to be done, because right now we're all just talking about it.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, something has to be done about it. When we talk about you know, young people in particular, we discussed the Midnight Basketball League and how that helps keep some young men off the streets. It is really about having something to do, having a job to go to. And I remember not too long ago, I had the Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Clayfish here, and she talked about the thousands of jobs that are available, but the thousands of people who are not skilled to work those jobs. In my opinion, that's what needs to be dealt with, setting up opportunities to give people the skills they need in order to take all these jobs that aren't being filled. Why is that so hard? In your opinion, of course, you can't speak for, you know, anyone
Right.
else.
Well, if there is a skills gap, you know, we have to figure out how to address it. You know, but not only do we need to address the skills gap, we have to have an approach that's actually creating employment opportunities. You know, we could train people, but if there is not a job that actually exists, then really what are we doing? So
That they can get to.
absolutely.
Exactly, yeah.
Absolutely. So knowing that, you know, being employed and having responsibilities is a deterrent to crime, you know, I think it's imperative that we begin to move on putting people back to work immediately.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's where it's going to start. That's where it's going to
Absolutely.
start. And for people who are just joining us, you talked about doing your town hall with the Milwaukee Bucks and making people aware of some of the jobs that are going to be available with the new arena, and also all the things that been built around the arena is really going to help make a difference as well.
There'll be construction jobs created for the building or the arena, but there'll also be in-use jobs for those who actually work inside the arena, and ancillary development will occur, such as building of restaurants and hotels, things of that nature. So we're all excited about the prospects of this renaissance, but most importantly, we want to make sure that everyone benefits from it.
Yes. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss, or not discuss, but just say as we wrap up?
You know, I just appreciate you always extending the invitation to allow me to come share with the public the things that I'm working on and the perspective I have. So thank you again for allowing me to come on Our Issues Milwaukee. It's appreciated as always.
And I appreciate you coming by to share it. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Keep up the good work. Alderman Khalif Rainey, he is the alderman for Milwaukee's 7th District. Again, you can reach his office by simply calling 414-286-2221. And that is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, I thank you for watching, and I do hope you join us again next week as we take another look at Our Issues Milwaukee. Have a great day.